In the 21st century, we are witnessing a strange paradox. We live in an era of unprecedented technological progress, material comfort, and endless entertainment. We have conquered many of the physical threats that haunted our ancestors. Yet, a new kind of plague is spreading across the globe, the plague of meaninglessness. Viktor Frankl called this the existential vacuum. It is that hollow feeling, that inner void that remains even when our bellies are full and our bank accounts are stable. It is the silent realization that one has everything to live with, but nothing to live for. Frankl noticed that this vacuum primarily manifests itself in a state of boredom. He famously said that boredom is now causing more problems to psychiatrists than distress. Think about the Sunday neurosis, that specific type of depression that hits people when the rush of the working week stops and they are suddenly confronted with the emptiness of their inner lives. When we don't have a mission or a why to pull us forward, we try to fill that void with substitutes. These substitutes are what Frankl called the will to power, money, status, ambition, and the will to pleasure, hedonism, distractions, addictions. In the modern world, the existential vacuum is often hidden behind the blue light of our smartphones, the pursuit of social media validation, or the endless consumption of goods. We are a society trying to cure a spiritual hunger with material things. But the vacuum is like a black hole. No matter how much pleasure or power you throw into it, it never gets full. It only grows larger until we stop and face the fundamental question: what is the purpose of all this? Understanding that your boredom and apathy are not signs of mental illness, but signs of a spiritual distress looking for a direction, is the first step toward healing. You are not broken. You are simply empty of purpose.
Why do so many successful people, celebrities, CEOs, and influencers struggle with deep depression and substance abuse? The answer lies in the confusion between success and meaning. In logotherapy, we make a clear distinction between the two. Success is an external achievement. Meaning is an internal discovery. One can be incredibly successful and still live in a total existential vacuum. In fact, success can often be a mask that hides the void until it's too late. When the will to meaning is frustrated, people often regress to the will to power. This is why our culture is so obsessed with status and control. We believe that if we just get the next promotion, buy the bigger house, or gain more followers, the hollow feeling will disappear. But power is only a means to an end. It is not an end in itself. If you have the power but no purpose to use it for, you are like a captain of a massive ship who has no destination. You have the engine, you have the crew, but you are just circling in the middle of the ocean. Similarly, we often confuse meaning with pleasure. This is the will to pleasure. We live in a feel-good culture where any discomfort is seen as something to be medicated or distracted away. However, as Frankl pointed out, happiness cannot be pursued. It must ensue. Happiness is a byproduct of having a reason to be happy. When we try to catch happiness directly through drugs, sex, or endless scrolling, we might get a temporary spike in dopamine, but the vacuum remains. In fact, the more we hunt for pleasure, the more it eludes us. It's like trying to catch a shadow. The faster you run after it, the further away it stays. To truly escape the vacuum, we must stop looking for success or pleasure and start looking for a task that demands our commitment. We must move from asking, "How can I feel better?" to "What is the world calling me to do with the power I have?" If the existential vacuum is the disease, then responsibility is the cure. In our modern language, the word responsibility often sounds like a heavy burden, a set of chores or a social obligation we want to avoid. However, in logotherapy, Responsibility is the very essence of human existence. Viktor Frankl taught us that we should not ask what the meaning of our life is, but rather realize that we are the ones being questioned. Each of us is interrogated by life, and we can only answer by being responsible. To respond is the root of responsibility. It means that life is a constant dialogue. Every situation you encounter, a difficult boss, a struggling relationship, a moment of solitude, is a question being directed at you. The existential vacuum grows when we stop answering these questions, when we become passive spectators of our own lives. We wait for meaning to fall from the sky, or for a feeling of inspiration to strike us before we act. But meaning is found in the doing. It is found in the decision to step up and fulfill the concrete demands of the moment. Frankl often used the term the self-transcendence of human existence. This means that being human always points towards something or someone other than oneself, whether it is a work to complete or another person to love. The more one forgets himself by giving himself to a cause to serve or another person to love, the more human he becomes and the more he actualizes himself. When we are trapped in the vacuum, we are too self-centered. We are looking inward at our own emptiness. Responsibility forces us to look outward. It shifts our focus from our own feelings to the tasks that are waiting for us. This is a radical shift in perspective. You are not the victim of your boredom or your lack of motivation. You are the protagonist who must decide how to respond to the vacuum. By taking responsibility for even the smallest task, you begin to fill the void. Meaning is not a grand, singular event at the end of the road. It is a series of small, responsible yeses to life's daily invitations. It is the realization that you are indispensable, that there is something in this world that will remain undone if you do not do it, and someone who will remain unloved if you do not love them. To truly understand how to escape the existential vacuum, we must distinguish between what traditional psychology calls a psychogenic neurosis and what logotherapy identifies as a noögenic neurosis. Most of us have been taught that if we feel anxious, depressed, or restless, it must be because of a chemical imbalance in our brain or a traumatic event from our childhood. While those factors are often real and important, Viktor Frankl argued that a large percentage of human suffering does not come from the body or the psyche, but from the nous, the spirit. A noögenic neurosis is not a mental illness in the traditional sense. It is a frustration of the will to meaning. It is the distress of a soul that has lost its way. When you feel that life is pointless, your mind might start creating symptoms, anxiety attacks, obsessive thoughts, or deep lethargy, as a way of signaling that your spirit is starving. The mistake we make in modern society is trying to treat this spiritual hunger solely with medication or by looking for deep-seated complexes in our past. If the problem is a lack of purpose, no amount of tranquilizers will solve it. You cannot medicate a lack of purpose. Frankl observed that when the spirit's search for meaning is blocked, the vacuum is filled by what he called the limited range of human impulses. We become aggressive, we become obsessed with sexual pleasure, or we fall into deep depression. These are the three symptoms of the existential vacuum: aggression, addiction, and depression. Look at the world around us. The rise in violence, the crisis of opioid addiction, and the epidemic of loneliness. These are not just social or biological problems. They are the collective symptoms of a world that has forgotten how to find meaning. The defiant power of the spirit that we discussed in the first video is the only force capable of overcoming a noögenic neurosis. It requires us to stop seeing ourselves as victims of our circumstances or our chemistry. It asks us to stand up and say, even if I feel this anxiety, what can I still do? What value can I still realize? In logotherapy, we don't just ask, why do you want to die? We ask, why do you choose to live?
By identifying those small sparks of meaning that still remain, we provide the spirit with the oxygen it needs to breathe again. We don't cure the symptoms by attacking them directly. We cure them by filling the life with so much purpose that the symptoms no longer have room to exist.
As we conclude this exploration of the existential vacuum, we must face a sobering truth. Meaning will not hunt you down. It will not knock on your door and present itself in a neatly wrapped package. In a world that offers endless distractions to keep us from feeling our own emptiness, choosing to seek meaning is an act of rebellion. It requires what the philosopher Paul Tillich called the courage to be. It is the courage to stay still long enough to feel the void, and then, instead of running away, deciding to build something within it. So, how do you start filling the vacuum today? You start by changing the scale of your expectations. Many people suffer because they are waiting for a great meaning, a world-changing mission, or a spectacular calling. But meaning is often found in the micro moments. It is found in the quality of the attention you give to your child, the integrity you bring to a boring task at work, or the grace with which you handle a small disappointment. Viktor Frankl once said that life is like a radio station that is broadcasting all the time, but we have to learn how to tune in. If you are hearing static, if you feel the vacuum, it's not because there is no music. It's because you haven't adjusted your receiver to the frequency of responsibility. Here is your practical challenge for this week. Identify one area of your life where you have been a passive victim, somewhere you feel bored, resentful, or empty. Now ask yourself, what is the very next thing life is asking of you in this situation? Don't look for a feeling of inspiration. Just do the task. Whether it's writing that email, cleaning that room, or making that difficult phone call, do it as an answer to life. You will find that as soon as you move from passivity to response, the vacuum begins to shrink. The existential vacuum is not a death sentence. It is a call to growth. It is the labor pains of a soul that is ready to expand. Thank you for being part of the Will to Meaning. If this video helped you understand that restless feeling inside, share it with someone who might be lost in their own void. Subscribe to continue this journey with us, and never forget, the void is only there to show you how much space you have to fill with purpose. I will see you in the next video, where we will dive into the power of tragic optimism, how to find hope when everything seems to be falling apart.